Hi, everyone, and welcome to our second Viewers Advisory. Today, we are going to be reviewing the movie American Honey, produced by A24. Before we get started, I just want to introduce my colleagues and myself. So, ladies.
Hi, everybody. My name is Elizabeth Juma. I typically work at the Glen Island branch, and I'm happy to be here again, talk about movies.
Hello, I'm Rachel Troyanos from the Bowie branch. Also happy to be here and talk about movies.
Hello, I'm Lauren Roots. I'm from the Austin Hill branch, and I'm excited to talk about films, in particular American Honey.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cinnamon Better, and I work at the Oxon Hill branch as well. All right, so we're just going to dive right into it. If this is your first viewing of our Viewers Advisory, we are doing the series strictly on movies produced and distributed by the film production company A24. We chose A24 because they are a production company that allows film creators to be a little bit, to have more freedom in filming. And have a little bit more leniency with the subject matter of the movies, which creates better dialogue for when the movies are released that some big box or cinema movies might not create. So they just create an overall more realistic feel and dialogue around their movies. This movie is going to be American Honey. And I'm just going to read the synopsis. For the first movie, I also did read the synopsis. It was a little weird, but this movie is kind of straightforward. It's more of a coming of age, young love type of movie. Okay, so here is the synopsis. Star, an adolescent girl from a troubled home, runs away with a traveling sales crew that drives across the American Midwest selling magazines door to door. Finding her feet in this gang of teenagers, one of whom is Jake, she soon gets into the group's lifestyle of hard partying nights, law-bending days, and young love. And it also stars Shia LaBeouf, who is the main character's kind of like co-star. They're both kind of like the main protagonists of the film. I did want to mention that the movie is rated R. It is available on both Netflix and Canopy, and I did want to also mention the triggers. It sort of hints at child molestation at the beginning, and there is nudity. So I just wanted to mention that just in case you are interested in watching after you view this program. All right, so generally, guys, how do we feel about the movie?
So I thought it was an interesting movie. Personally, I don't think I'm the audience for it, but I did think it was a well-made film. My first thoughts. I always, have a lot of thoughts.
I liked it. I would agree it's not for everyone. But I liked it, and how it was kind of stressful but realistic. And I don't know, I liked it.
I think I was fascinated by it. I had never heard of magazine crews or mag crews, so this was definitely a new subject matter for me to see and to learn about. And I found myself kind of doing a little additional digging to find out like just what happened in situations like this.
I think saying that you're fascinated by it is a really good way to describe the way I felt. I was also fascinated by it. Like, I just was like, what's going to happen next? Like, what is this? What is this life?
For sure.
So I want to say I liked the film, although like I didn't feel like it had a real plot. Like both of you guys said, it's kind of like, well, what's going to happen next? Like it felt like one long story that somebody told me, like, guess what happened to me over the weekend, or guess what happened when I did XYZ. Like it just felt like something that somebody was like a retelling of a crazy story instead of a movie. Like that's how it really felt. Like something that could happen to a younger me or a younger one of my friends on a wild, crazy weekend where they were just like, why not? Like just getting into whatever. So, what was the strongest emotion that you felt watching the film?
Probably for me, stress. Like the whole thing was just stressful. Pretty much from beginning to end. Like it just starts off stressful. In the middle, it's like, girl, what are you doing? It's stressful. You still saying it's stressful. I'm just like, this is stressful. And in the end, it's pretty stressful because you're like,
right,
what? Okay. Whew. But yeah, stress.
I would say stressful and uncomfortable, but also like young love, like romantic-y. So I was like, oh, but definitely uncomfortable. But I think that was the point of how they filmed it, was they wanted you to feel uncomfortable.
I agree with the stress. I had there were a lot of moments where I just felt very anxious for not only Star, but like the whole group, and just finding out, like, is somebody going to catch you? Is somebody going to, what are the consequences of the things that you're doing? Because they don't seem all that legal. And then there are just so many moments where, well, they're not legal. It's not, they don't seem, they're not. But there are also other moments where it's just tense between characters, or there's physical things that happen that yes, I agree with this. It's definitely, I think stress was probably the best emotion.
I kept thinking too, like, if it was me, would I be able to sell these magazines, or like would I be left on the side of the road? And like I think I like just trying to like put myself in their place, that was stressful as well, but like very interesting still.
Because you're like rooting for them to be able to sell the magazine so that they can have money to make a living, but also it's just like, this is so dangerous. Like when I kept watching Star get into all of these situations where she was just hopping in a car with somebody, it's like, well, this is where I'm going. I got to make this money. I was just like, girl, oh my God. Like I was on the edge of my seat, like, please don't let nothing happen to this girl. Like she is just so naive and just so trusting of these strangers that she does not care how like dangerous the situation that she's going into. And maybe she doesn't see it. Like maybe that's a part of being young and naive and not understanding like all the dangers of the world, is that you just put yourself in these situations. You trust people because maybe she hasn't had anything severely wrong done to her other than at the beginning.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like it's the opposite. I feel like it's because she came from such a troubled home. She's just like, well, I've already seen a lot of really bad things. I've already seen people struggling. So why not just jump into someone's car? I think she has like this feeling of I can handle myself. And so that's why as the movie goes along, everything escalates. Like it gets more and more intense because she's pushing the boundaries of what she thinks she can handle.
Yeah, I agree, Elizabeth. I think it's because she's like jaded almost. She's like, whatever. I think she knows fully what she's doing, but she's like, the worst has already happened to me as a child, or like what worse could happen.
I could definitely see that as well. And it's sort of like maybe she also feels like that because her power was taken from her, from someone that she trusted, her dad. And now she's kind of like taking that power back by just doing whatever she wants to, putting herself in those dangerous situations. It was still scary for me. I was just like, oh my goodness, please don't let nothing happen to this girl.
Yeah, because you like her too. Like I found her to be quite likable.
Right.
And like, I want to take care of you. I feel sad for you.
Right, because she wasn't a bad person at all.
No, she was very sweet.
Right. You would think that with all of the things that had happened to her, she would turn into like this cold-blooded, heartless person that was kind of like trying to get revenge. And she wasn't like that at all. Like she was still very trusting, very giving, very loving, very respectful. even to Crystal, who honestly did not deserve any of the respect that she was giving her with the yes ma'ams and the no ma'ams. I was like, what did you guys like least about the film?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you can go.
Shia LaBeouf's rat tail.
I kept thinking, why doesn't he cut that? Like, I kept going back to one of their little rules was dress for success, and I was like, this rat tail is not giving success. He needs to cut that right away. Like, just get rid of it because it looks a mess.
I mean, there definitely was a particular look that they were going for in this film. And I think that this is just a theory. I don't know. Shia LaBeouf is pretty famous. And I feel like they were trying to do this thing where they're trying to, I don't want to say like ugly him, but they're trying to give him something to make him look more normal or more like everyone else. And so I think they made that decision to kind of give the character something to like maybe kind of just realize, oh, this is not a movie star. He's like all the rest of the cast. I don't think it worked, but that's my theory with that. Like, there's a scene in the movie. I don't know if we're like spoiling, but I just really want to talk about this because I feel like it relates to the rat tail. So there's a part where the woman who runs the crew, Crystal, tells them to change their clothes and then they should dress more like, I guess, poor, or the word she used was white trash. She shouldn't be to dress like that. And I was like realizing like, wow, like I have a lot of stereotypes because I was like, I don't really see a difference in how they're dressing now. So that's like, I feel like they were trying to do something with the clothes and everything.
Mm-hmm. I will say that I feel like the rat tail added to the Stevie look of him, because that first scene where they see each other in the grocery store, I was just like, he looks like a skeevy little perv, like with the suspenders and his little belly. And I was just like, Shia LaBeouf, what are you doing? What are you doing, sir? And like I guess it made him more it drew her more to him because he, like you said, he didn't look all glamorized. He looked like a regular Joe, somebody that she could, probably get along with. But I just looked at him as just like, this look is not becoming of you.
It wasn't, but I still found myself having a crush on him afterwards. I don't know why. Anybody else or no?
All right.
Sorry for my unpopular opinion.
You asked the question of like what bothered you about the film. And I actually was very bothered by the relationship dynamics in the film. It starts off with a very toxic family and, basically broken family dynamic. And I mean, I know y'all are saying young love, but I just really just felt like toxic. Like that whole interaction was just, I know that's, you have those experiences, but definitely I found that to be a bit rough and a bit toxic. Not even a bit, actually just straight up toxic.
Right.
And I think, I understand where you're coming from, Elizabeth. And I think one of the things about being young and in love is you kind of ignore those things in spite of the fact. It kind of lends itself to Star's naivety, that she just keeps coming back knowing full well that Shia LaBeouf's character is not at all the best, but he's better than what she's experienced before. So I would definitely agree with that. And I would also like to say that one of the things that I didn't like about this film was kind of the casual use of the N-word that's coming from non-Black characters. That really, really rubbed me the wrong way. and made me super, super uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
That made me uncomfortable. Actually, the use of music made me uncomfortable the whole time. Like, I just was like really, really having trouble. Not because I dislike the music, but in film, I think we've talked about quite a few films now, and music is really important. And the types of film, the music you use is important. And in this film, the title of the film is based off of the song. And so I just really didn't like honestly, I kind of felt like it was a little bit disrespectful. Like it was almost like a spectacle and added to the stress of my viewing experience.
Yeah, I will say that every time a song came on where I know the N word was going to be used in it, I was just like, are they going to say it? Like, are they going to go there? And they absolutely did. And I was like, really? Yeah, I was also bothered by that, but I think my least favorite part of the film was that Shia LaBeouf like really had the power to take this girl under his wing and really mentor her and look out for her, and he took advantage of her, like plain and simple. Like the best example I can give of what Elizabeth is talking about with the toxic love and just being like an adult that doesn't really nurture a young girl, but like I said, takes advantage of her and is kind of a predator, was when they went to their first house, the first sale that they had, and Shia LaBeouf kind of went completely off the rails and pretty much did a hypothetical situation where their mom died because they were siblings. And we know that Star's mom is troubled and that they don't have a good relationship. And so that kind of struck a nerve with her, and she got really upset and was like, that crossed the line. Like, of all the lies that you could have told, you don't know my background. You don't know if my mom is actually really dead. Why would you say that? And he says, oh, well, that sucks that you're mad at me because I got you a gift. Sir, can we discuss the real issues here? I'm upset. You said something that triggered me, and now you're trying to gaslight me into being happy because you got me a gift. I was like, ooh, child of manipulation. Like, how dare you? And like Elizabeth said, like, that's a part of like the toxic young love that you don't see. Like, young you will probably be like, what's the gift? What did you give me? Okay, like, I'm not mad no more. But like older you is like, no, you can give me the gift, but we're still going to discuss this issue because you were wrong. I feel away, and it's not right.
Yeah. One thing I will say is that the movie does show Star's character realizing the dynamic she's in over time, you know, like slowly. Like the gift is like a good example. She like doesn't keep it.
Right.
And that was, like that whole thing was just, I don't know if it was maybe triggering and it's like reminding you of maybe experiences that you have had in the past. But I was just like, oh no, this is just bothersome.
Like, that's why movies like these are so, I don't want to use the word special, but I feel like that's the word I want to use because like it's nostalgic. Like they bring up feelings that you might have had as a youth, or things that you might think, like if you have a younger person in your life or a younger sibling, you might think like, God, I hope they never experience that, or you know, that's really wrong. Like that will probably lead to some adulthood trauma because she went through this. Like it brings up all of those emotions that you may not have gotten when you were watching it as a teen, or you know, watching it a lot earlier in your life. So that's why I like these coming of age films, like watching them as an adult. Cause I'm just like, oh, that's so cute. Or like, run for the hills. This is not a good situation for you to be in.
I do want to talk a little bit about Shia LaBeouf's character, and I'll probably talk about it later because I know one of the questions or one of the things that we do want to talk about is favorite characters versus least characters. But to your point of like taking somebody under your wing, you also have to realize the dynamics that he's been exposed to. And what kind of role model can you be if the role models before you or the person that took you under their wing was equally as toxic? So I'll talk a little bit about that more later. But yeah, that was just something that was on my mind as you were saying it. I was like, yeah, I see that. But you have to also look at where he's coming from and what he's experienced up until, yeah, it definitely is cyclical.
Rachel, what did you like least? Oh, you said his rat tail.
Yeah, his rat tail.
Lauren, did you like it? What was the least thing you liked? The thing you liked least?
Oh, it was the casual use of the N-word.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So what did we all like best about the film? Like, what did this film do a really good job of?
Sorry, I was seeing Rachel's mic, and I was like, "She gonna talk?" I really liked the scenery. I like seeing I like road trip movies in general, especially based in the United States, because it just shows the differences in the states and the scenery and views. And I always enjoyed that, and I like that in this movie. I think it added to the film. I
liked how realistic the characters were. Like, I feel like I knew people like that in high school, and like I believe they were, again, just random people that they got to act in this movie, and I think it worked really well in making the movie feel more real, like during that time in your life when you're, finding young love and figuring out who you are and being swayed by this toxic man.
So I really like the natural or intimate moments of the film where the characters kind of shed this hardened exterior and relaxed into being a little bit more vulnerable. And Elizabeth, I know you talked about music, but I also think that the musical cues kind of change. So we go from like mainstream rap, which glorifies like a certain materialistic lifestyle or sex, and to some scenes where there's a complete absence of music and we're kind of forced to sit in the scene, or some of the sounds of like the natural world around us, and then to music that's a little bit more softened or nostalgic feeling or longing for something deeper. And so some of those musical cues that were favorites of mine or that really kind of struck out to me were the Ravenettes' Recharge and Revolt, which was, I think, a scene with Shia LaBeouf's character and Star sitting on the roof of the car as they were driving through one of the cities. And then the ending song, which was Rory's God's Whisper. So I liked, as much as I didn't like aspects of the music, I liked how they were woven into the story. And how it made me feel as a result.
I loved the last song so much. I just thought it was such a great way to close the movie. I don't know, it felt very powerful. So I agree with you, Lauren. Thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, no worries. And you can find it on Freegal.
Yes, Lauren is the score girl. She will find the score and share it for sure. Like, you guys want the track? I got it.
Unfortunately, like the whole score for American Honey isn't there, but Rory's music is, and so God's Whisper you can definitely find on there, and that whole CD is actually amazing. So I encourage anybody to go and check it out.
Thank you for that. The best part of the film for me was the fact that it really didn't feel like a film. Like, it really felt like one long story, one long regular road trip of like kids just figuring life out this one long summer, ending up in all of these crazy scenarios and just like bonding through like the situation that they found themselves in. Like, they've all come together to this woman Crystal to find something in themselves that they couldn't find in their regular lives. And like through all of their different interactions, through selling these magazine subscriptions, through like sharing themselves with each other, they're developing over time and pretty much becoming who they're going to be in the world. So I just appreciated that it was just like, hey, let's take a look at how these other people live. Because like Rachel said, like, it's probably people out here that are really living this type of life or just experiencing these things. And so I just like the authenticity of it, like how it just felt so real. Even the scene when Star went to, I think it might have been her last cell, and there were like 3 kids there, and they were watching Wendy Williams, and they didn't have any food in the fridge, and she, was just so moved because she, had come from that same situation, and she went and bought them groceries. Like, even that felt so genuine, like, because throughout the movie, like, we see her just doing small acts of kindness and not really putting herself above anybody. So for her to do that, it just felt really natural and just like, wow, like that's something that a real person in this situation might do, even though you're probably no better off than them. If you have something to give, like it's just a natural human instinct to want to. So I just like the real feel of the movie. So least favorite character.
Crystal.
Same.
She sucked.
Yeah, I would say the same about Crystal, and I think I would add the note that Lauren was making about Shia's character. I mean, it's clear that where the film alludes to, Crystal is probably coming from a dynamic that's probably similar to people being trafficked or like people being some kind of maybe gang type of dynamic, because that's basically the dynamic that's recreated with the magazine crew. It just like everything she does is like very reminiscent of that. So I kind of see her character in the same way that you were saying with Shia. Like there's clearly something that happened and there's a dynamic she's recreating. Also not. I mean, I won't say she was my least favorite character, actually. I comfortably think my least favorite character was a man that Star interacts with at the near the endish of the movie. Yeah, didn't know redeeming qualities for him. Not my favorite.
The oil field guy?
Yeah, oil field guy. Like all of them, everyone she went off with in the oil field. It's interesting how the movie does that, because you think she might be okay because she's done something similar to this, and it takes a turn and you're disappointed. So not like those characters.
I didn't even realize that there was such a parallel. She did do that already before. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, the whole time that she was sitting in the truck, I was just like, okay, she's safe. Maybe he just wants to talk. Maybe he just wants some company from a young lady, and it wasn't at all innocent. And I was just like,
yeah, I thought that was one of the best parts of the movie, is that you actually feel the emotions you should have felt for this one when she does it the first time. Like you're very anxious, you're worried, and then this time it's like, oh well, maybe they're cool.
Exactly. Maybe he just sees her struggling and wants to help her out and doesn't actually want anything crazy in return, but
no,
not at all.
So I guess I'll just elaborate a little bit more on Crystal. I did write a little bit about, I did write about her. And so I also wrote, I guess in some of my notes, I wrote that there were no bad people, just bad circumstances and bad choices. And I don't remember if that's a direct quote, but I'm going to just go ahead and say I applied that to Crystal for her treatment of those beneath her. And she kind of claims that the money that the group is making is what helps her provide for them. But she takes a larger percentage for herself. So she's able to get like luxuries, like a personal hotel room, a personal car, and drugs, clothes, jewelry. She also allows the lowest sellers to severely harm one another for a moment of redemption in her eyes. And she initially chastises the use of sex to earn money, but obviously drops these girls off in the middle of nowhere with men who she knows have not seen women in a while. Like she tells them to start for it, and then she's like, yeah, here, go out and sell yourselves because we need money. She displays behaviors that are not only elitist, but also incredibly predatory. She uses her power to get what she wants from boys that she deems are worthy. And in doing so, she grooms them to mimic her behaviors, which is why Shia LaBeouf's character acts the way that he does. She has groomed him to act in this way. And that is also what makes Star's kind of situationship with Jake so problematic. It threatens portions of her power. And so I think that's also why she kind of makes an effort to separate the boys from the girls and to kind of keep these strong relationships from forming within this kind of toxic ecosystem that she's created. She doesn't want them to band together, even though most of them kind of do. You do see smaller relationships that form within the group, and those couples kind of work to protect each other. But again, as much as I don't like her, I do imagine that this is learned behavior. There had to be somebody else at the top before her. And in order for her to get to where she got to, she had to build up those rules that she's had to, and some of those treatments that she's had to endure, and put them on others so that they'll grow to be just like her. And so I guess all of this is kind of rotted from the ground up, you know.
Yeah, I would say that I instantly picked up on her being jealous when Star was being brought into the group. And now that you break it down in terms of the fact that she may have threatened the hierarchy, it makes sense, but it also makes it that much more tragic, because how is this young girl a threat to the power that you have over these teenagers? It's wrong for you to even think that you have power over them. Like, they are people. They don't belong to you. You don't have ownership over them. And yet you're afraid that this girl will come in and break up the dynamic that you created of you being the owner and them being the property. Like, it's really crazy.
And I think it's because it's an outright display between her and Jake. It's not like it's subtle. It's not like no one knows. There was like one coupling where I don't think I realized that they were in a relationship until there are just a couple of scenes that show you that they are. But otherwise, they don't really show any affection to each other with the whole group around. But with Star and with Jake, it's obvious. It is blatant and right in everybody's face. And I think that that's why she's so threatening to Crystal, or in Crystal's eyes.
Okay. So how does acting choice and I guess how the actors presented on screen, how they delivered the lines, like how does that contribute to the overall feeling of the film, or the overall story maybe the filmmakers are trying to tell? So I'll start. I looked up the cast after I was done just to see, who had acted before, what were their previous roles they were casting, and found out that Star, the main character, I think her name is Sasha Lane. That was her first acting role ever. And you could almost tell because everything she did just felt so natural. Like, it wasn't like she was an actor who had rehearsed lines or studied the nuances of what an actress is supposed to be like. She just kind of went with her role because, she isn't supposed to be some mature, distinguished type of person. She's just supposed to be a teenager or a young person who's found themselves in this new environment. And so kind of like with I want to say Scarlett Johansson in Under the Skin with the deer in the headlights look, she was kind of just going along with the flow. And I think that her not being an actress before kind of added to that, with her being out of her element a little and just kind of going with the flow of what the movie was supposed to give, I guess, from her point of view.
I think the director also split the scripts. From what I read, she split the scripts into parts. And so the actors were all given a daily script. So it was kind of to minimize that overacting or just planning to how their character should react to certain situations. It was very raw and very authentic in that way. And so I think that made a huge difference as well. And I don't think any of them, with the exception of Shia LaBeouf and the young lady who played Crystal, and maybe a few others, but those were the two big actresses. The others were just grabbed from the street.
And I could see them getting just people from the street and saying, "Hey, you want to be in this movie?"
Yeah, it was more of them just being themselves instead of acting, which
Right.
made it feel that much more authentic. And I think why I was like, I know these people because I have met similar people like this in the real world. So I really appreciated that. I think that's why I liked the movie, because it felt so real and they captured just like genuine interactions.
Right.
And all they really requested of them was just to like be yourselves, and it still made a really good story.
Right.
Yeah, I would just be echoing everything you guys said. The performances felt real because they're professional. Most of them weren't professional actors, and it shows in the film. And it's constructed in a way that doesn't make it look, I don't know, like a cheap documentary or something. It looks like
Right.
still like a polished indie film.
Okay. So, speaking, I guess, of the actresses and the actors, and the roles that they played, and Shia LaBeouf and Crystal, in what ways were the protagonists or antagonists like someone that you know or like you? Were there any instances where you connected with something that the actor was doing or saying and thought back to an experience that you had or an experience that you know someone else has had?
I can't really say that I related too much to any of the characters. Maybe with the maybe growing to have disappointments in relationships, like wanting something to work out and realizing it's not going to be what you want it to be.
Right.
That's probably the biggest thing that I found relatable.
I've related to Star, like in the pining over a young love, that's he's sort of giving you a little bit, but not at the same time. I've definitely done that. So I definitely saw some similarities to like younger Rachel in Star.
Like he was showing her just enough attention to get her to open up, but he still remained so elusive. It was like when we're together, like when they were together, it was so passionate and they were connected, and it was like, I'm yours, you're mine type thing, like we're together. But then after that moment was over, it was like, yeah, get back to work. I don't know what you think this is. This isn't a relationship. And I was like, oh, poor Star.
I know.
So like I also can relate to that, Rachel. Young Cinnamon, like I said in the beginning, like you don't recognize those patterns of love that's not for you or that's not healthy for you in the beginning. Like I'm not gonna generalize it, but I didn't. And so like watching that, I was just like my heart was just breaking for her. Like Star, you deserve so much better. Like do not get involved with this man. He does not deserve you. Like you are so more deserving of other things. But I could definitely connect to the young love aspect of it. And yeah.
Yep.
I think I probably just related to the fascination with the natural world around. Like Star was constantly getting a trapped bug and releasing it out. Because I know you talked about her acts of kindness or wanting, having the means to do well for other people. And I feel like that was who I was when I was little, was somebody who was always trying to like hear something and look at it. And having to learn, and I think I learned later on the importance of setting those things free and not just keeping them contained. But definitely, I would say that element of her that was fascinated with it, and then later on those elements of learning how to set things free, and not keep them trapped up.
Good catch. I think another one of her like good deeds was when she went off with the 3 cowboys. And that was, you know, the first instance of me thinking like, oh God, please no, I don't want anything to happen to this girl. Please don't let these men be evil. And, you know, they were actually really nice to her. Granted, they shouldn't have had an underage girl at their house drinking and playing around in the pool. That was just inappropriate in itself. But even when Jake came in and tried to, you know, save the day, she was still trying to, you know, save them. Like, don't hurt them. They've been really nice to me. What are you doing? Like, I was fine. She was almost like, you know, I didn't need you to save me. Like, I was here just chilling with my new friends, and you come in here howling like a wolf, trying to freaking pull a gun on people. And so I think that that was another one of her, like, deeds, like not trying to even harm people that may have intended to harm her. Like, just intended to leave people how they came to her, kind of like no worse or no better type of thing, or maybe better but not worse. Okay, so now that we've talked about characters, we talked about theme, we talked about the nuances of the actresses and the actors, who would you recommend this film to?
I would recommend this film to people who don't really like fictional film. Like, they don't like stylized film. Like, they like one of the things they might say is like, oh, I don't really like film. It doesn't feel real. There's a lot of people who like a real feel of film. Yeah. So I definitely would recommend this to anyone who says that. If you like coming of age stories or stories about young people, I would also recommend this film to you. Yeah, that's who I would recommend.
Okay.
I'd probably only recommend this to someone who I think would get it. I think there's a lot of like, I think that they're trying to have a lot of commentary in this movie, and a lot of people might miss it. Like, I do think there's a contrast between really rich houses that they're going to and these really poor teens that are coming to the houses. So I think there's something being said about that. And just someone that will appreciate the artistry of the movie, because it's very beautiful to me. It was very beautiful to watch, even though it was stressful, even though it was problematic.
Right.
It was just so pretty.
That's one thing I will say that I feel like I've noticed in all of the A24 films that I've seen is that the cinematography is just breathtaking sometimes. Like, some of the things that they capture, you're just like, wow, I wouldn't have even thought to like look at that if I was watching this movie. But you know, they zoom in on it and they linger for a little while. You're just like, wow, this is really pretty. Or like different landscapes. It's just the cinematography in this film is amazing. Like Elizabeth said, you know, road tripping films, they kind of give you a view of other states that you don't get to see. You see mountains, you see blue skies that you might not necessarily see in your hometown, and it's just like, wow, like maybe I should go there. Like, it takes you somewhere else out of your own comfort zone. So I appreciate that about all the films produced by A24 that I've seen, is that they just show you the beauty of like the world around you.
And I think they did the scenes of intimacy really well too. Like, they didn't make it like fake intimacy. It felt very real.
The car scene, I was just like,
yeah. So someone that would appreciate all of that is who I would recommend that to. And probably it's just the three of you, but
I think I would recommend it to somebody who likes books or films that say they're based on a true story, since this process was kind of grounded in things, you know, maybe not one person's situation, but grounded in an overall situation with Mag Cruz.
Gotcha. I would recommend this film to people who like coming of age stories, people who are fans of movies that are like, Rachel, what was the movie that we said? What was the name of it that we watched? Where they went to Disneyland?
Oh, the Florida Project.
The Florida Project.
Very much like the Florida Project.
Right. So if you like the Florida Project or like movies in that realm, I really think that you would appreciate this film. And anybody that I guess is involved heavily in conversations about classism and poverty and the trauma that can ensue just from being in those conditions, I think you would appreciate this movie because it talks about that. Like Lauren said, you know, coming from that type of environment is kind of like a cycle. If you're born into that and you don't kind of break out of it, I guess you just continue to, I guess, recruit other people into that lifestyle with you, and it becomes like cyclical. So I think that if you're in conversations with people about that a lot, or you're passionate about things of that nature, then you would appreciate this film as well, because it definitely encourages a debate about classism and poverty and the environment that people like that that live in those conditions grow up in. So those are all of the questions I have for you guys. Did you all have any additional comments about the film? Additional questions? Okay. All right, so we are going to end here. Again, my name is Cinnamon Better, and I really hope that you all enjoyed our review and viewers advisory of the film American Honey. Next month is October, so we're going to do a spooky movie. I think we agreed on The Black Coat's Daughter. So that is also available on Canopy, and it is free. So if you would like to join our next discussion, be on the lookout for the date in October. We're going to be watching The Black Coat's Daughter and discussing it just as we discussed this movie.
Thank you, Cinnamon.
Thank you, ladies, for joining me. Until next time. Bye.